everybody, to another episode of the TPT Podcast, the TPT Hockey Podcast, the TPT Podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another great episode of the TPT Podcast. Today, we got a big time episode for you guys. We're going to go over the 53-man roster. Today, we're going to be breaking down the offense, who we think our prediction on who is going to make the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, helped me break that down is going to be Zach. Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yep. We were supposed to do the podcast yesterday. I had a lot of technical difficulties. So we sat here trying to get it up, and for some reason my Zoom app didn't work and the Zoom browser wouldn't work. So we're here doing it tonight.
Yes, usually, guys, we bring you episodes on Tuesday and Friday. They'll be obviously more consistent when the actual games matter. We will release those on Tuesdays, but today you guys are going to catch this probably early on a Thursday. So, yeah, a little bit delayed, but this will kind of be our episode for the preview and the review. But first, we're going to break down the 53-man roster. This one has been one of the more tricky ones in recent year, kind of breaking down some positions on like who's just going to get cut, because there's a lot of guys you could see making this team, and they'll probably end up getting picked up by other teams from practice squad. So, Zach, to start it off, you're going to kind of look at the quarterbacks. I know they kept 4 this preseason. Any surprises here?
At quarterback, no. We'll probably carry 2 quarterbacks.
Right.
I don't think we typically carry that third string guy on the roster, but like for the last game of the season, we'll bring him up for
Yeah.
And also Aludakun is very safe from being taken because he isn't a vet. He has no game experience, so he won't be snatched up. And so I just expect 2 quarterbacks, and we can leave some room for an extra wide receiver or an extra DB.
Right. So you're predicting Mahomes and Wentz.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Oladokin on the practice squad.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And like you said, I don't know. He's had actually a good preseason. So I want to throw that out there. I don't think there's a team that would really steal him unless it was kind of like it fits their system. But like they say, him being on the practice squad, he's a scout team. So it's good to have someone who's like Patrick Mahomes also be on your scout team, because there's other guys who are seeing the league, start to play at that style. So it's good to have a mobile guy and a guy who can kind of move around so that defense can get looks like that for the scout team. But yeah, I agree as well. Patrick Mahomes and Carson Wentz. That one's pretty much an easy one. And I think, do you think having, how important is it nowadays to have a quality backup? Because I think Carson Wentz is up there for one of the better backups in the NFL.
Yeah, for us, it's extremely important because we will win the vast majority of games that Mahomes does play. And as soon as Mahomes comes back, we can win it all. And so if for some reason Mahomes were to have an injury a little more serious than the one he had with the kneecap in 2019,
right?
If you were to miss, let's say 5-6 weeks without a good backup, you're in jeopardy of losing 5 out of 6 of those games, even if the rest of our team is good too. And so having Wentz, a veteran that can come in and do the Chad Henne thing where he does check downs, and he might even have more capabilities than Henne.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be huge. And I mean, you saw with the Eagles, if Nick Foles didn't exist, the Eagles wouldn't have won an entire Super Bowl because Carson Wentz was the starter that year. And so having a guy, I think Carson Wentz is not. It's not like we're getting Carson Wentz from 2 years ago. He's proven that he's not a starter quality guy. But just having a veteran guy that Reed can give the keys to, and we don't have to freak out and run the ball every down, super valuable.
Yeah. I think that's huge because, I mean, we had Chad Henne, who, shout out Chad Henne, he basically, or he won us a playoff game and then came in versus the Jags for a drive or two and scored, had his first playoff touchdown. So it is huge. And Carson Wentz is best backup we've had in the Patrick Mahomes era. Shout out Matt Moore too.
Matt
He did a
Moore.
great
I was
Matt
about to
Moore.
say like
Great job. Should have beat Aaron Rodgers on a Monday night.
uh,
I mean, I played very well for 3 or 4 weeks. So shout out Matt Moore. But yeah, I think having a good backup matters. And obviously, he'll probably be Mr. Week 18. That's kind of what it's looking like every year. Whatever backup we have, they're just going to play Week 18 because Patrick Mahomes is usually sitting out because they're usually either they have a playoff spot or they clinch a first seed or whatever it may be. So I absolutely agree. And we're going to move on to the running backs. Obviously, we'll get your perspective on it too. But my perspective on the running backs is I think they keep three. But if you want to count a fullback four, so mine is Isaiah Pacheco, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and a lot of people may not agree with him, but I think Deneric Prince makes it. I just don't think Zamet has done enough to make it. I think he'll be on the practice squad. He may get moved up. I would like to see him obviously more in special teams, but I think Deneric Prince, I know he hasn't done a great job, but I think Deneric Prince makes it. So I think it's Pacheco, Clyde Edwards, and Deneric Prince. And then I think they do bring back the fullback, which I'm excited for is Carson Steele. The way he's played on special teams. He's been able to run the ball great. Maybe they just keep him as a running back. I know he's kind of flip flopped at both. Last game, obviously Clyde didn't play, but he was out there with the starters majority of the time, even I think more than Pacheco was at times. So I like Carson Steele. So I think they technically keep four backs. What is your perspective? Do you think they bring back the fullback, or do they just kind of keep him as running back, or not at all?
I mean, ideally, if I was running the roster, I wouldn't bring in Clyde. It's difficult because Clyde really is not a great NFL running back at all. Prince is a little bit younger and he's a little bit more dynamic. Now,
Mhm.
Clyde does know the playbook and probably would be able to play McKinnon's role a little bit better than Deneric Prince. I mean, one thing I know for sure is that whether he's a fullback or running back, Carson Steele has to make the roster
Yeah.
because he can absolutely heal some of our red zone and third and fourth and short woes that we've had over the last few years. And so he's making it. And then I would personally leave off Clyde because of the fact that even though Steele will be listed as a fullback, he has some running back skills. He's not
Mhm.
slow. He can probably catch the ball, but I don't expect them to cut Clyde or move him down to the practice squad, which wouldn't last.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I wouldn't mind that at all. Deneric Prince, um, similar traits to if they did end up doing that, all three running backs are bigger backs. Clyde, like you said, I feel like there's a lot he could do in the receiving game, but we just kind of seen what Clyde can kind of do. I know they like him as a big locker room guy, and obviously he's been with the team a while, but I could absolutely see him getting cut. But like you said, Carson Steele has to make this team. I don't care if it's at fullback, if it's at running back, if it's at the water boy. He better make this team because he's absolutely been, and it's not just, the hype, he kind of had, oh, we had a big run versus Jacksonville. Last game, had a great game as well. I mean, just guys bouncing off him. He had to actually return a kickoff, got a couple yards up that. So I'm excited to see him and what he can do. Like you said, Pacheco absolutely, he can absolutely hit stick a guy when he's running the ball. But for some reason, when it's 3rd and 1, it doesn't pan out. For some reason, at 4th and 1, we have problems with short downage, and I think Carson Steele could really help with that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Moving on, we're going to go over. It's back to you with the wide receivers. Is there any surprises you have with the wide receivers, and how many do you think we keep?
I think we keep 7. I think typically for the 53, there's a little bit more players on defense because they have to sub out more. The O line and the quarterback never sub out. And so maybe 27 on defense, 23 on offense, and then 3 specialists. And so at wide receiver, you can't really keep 8, even though we have 8 guys that would be wide receivers, 6 or 7 on some other teams. I have us keeping Marquise Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier
Mhm.
Worthy, obviously. I have us keeping Mecole Hardman for the special teams ability, the fact that he needs to be a part of the three-peat. because he was instrumental in that first playoff run. Uh, he wasn't instrumental. He was good in that season, not so much in the playoffs.
All
Um,
right.
I will have Justin Ross due to his red zone ability, and then it's between Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore.
And
And
what about Watson? Watson as well.
I would have Watson making it because he's proven that he can produce. Okay, unlike these last few guys that haven't really proven it yet. And if I was running the team, I've said this a lot. Okay, I would choose Toney, but Toney he's not done himself any favors this entire offseason. And Sky Moore
Right.
has started to do himself some favors. He had a few nice special teams plays last week. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
him get open in the preseason. The backups haven't really hit him that well, but I've seen him get open. And so I expected to be Sky Moore, but I just I like Toney a lot just because of his Dante Hall-esque ability to cut back and forth, and it's ridiculous. But I think he's gonna get cut. He's dug himself too much of a hole.
Yeah. So you said Hollywood Brown, Rice, Worthy, Watson, Hardman, and then who did you have that son of Ross
Ross, and I would have
and,
Toney.
and Tony. Okay, so you have what about Ramiro, Nico Ramiro? What do you think about him? Do you think he makes it? Any
I don't
chance
I
he thrives there
I
over
don't see
maybe a guy like
Remigio making
Tony?
it because I don't see him making it. I mean, he's very young. We could probably keep him on the practice squad. That's one thing that wouldn't be the case with a Miko Hardman or Kadarius Toney, okay, or
Right.
Sky Moore, honestly, because of his draft capital. Remigio had last week played better. His first week he
Mhm.
was really bad. He
Yes.
had
A big catch and then
the
fumble.
one play where he had the big catch, but no one was around him and he jumped and fell. And then when he gets up, he gets stripped.
Yep.
And then he had that poor kick return, I believe it
Yeah.
was. And so I don't see him making the team because we know that Miko Hardman can do what he can do. We
Hmm.
know that Sky Moore probably can, even though Sky Moore was a terrible punt returner that first year. Uh, and then the other guys just fill different needs. So I would say Remigio is the odd man out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I have the exact same receivers making the team. The only guy would be maybe, yeah, like you said, is Kadarius Toney. I could maybe seeing him not make the roster, but again, I do think they do kind of need some of those gadget guys. I know they were testing him even at running back at one point. So again, I do think that he would be the only guy where I would put on the bubble. But yeah, I like the exact same receiver list. Is and another thing I wanted to kind of ask you is if Hollywood Brown has to miss some weeks, is a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster who's now in the market someone you would like to go get?
Well, okay, if you were to have asked me this right after his horrible first few weeks with the Patriots last year, I would have said yes, because a few months ago, he was huge in our Super Bowl against the Eagles, okay, at that point.
Mhm.
And so at that point, I'm like, oh yeah, he's the same player. It's just this situation's terrible and they
Yeah.
don't know how to use him. That was a very rough season. Okay, extremely rough. And Juju's getting up there in age now. He's probably played how many years? 6 years now. I don't
Maybe longer.
maybe yeah,
17.
maybe longer.
Yeah, so
It's
this is his he's a year before Pat. So this is his eighth year, going on 8 years.
okay. But at the same time, we kind of did a complete 180 with our receiving core where we went from a bunch of guys that play Juju's role to a bunch of field stretchers. You look, we have Marquise Brown, Worthy, Justin Watson, Miko Hardman right there. Those are all four just like pure vertical threats, vertical
Right.
or in the case of Worthy and Brown, across the field threats like drag routes and things of that nature. Juju would be a great Rashee if Rashee Rice were to go down. If we can have him as the seventh guy, that would be
Right.
a great fill-in. And so I would be open to it, but it really depends on how confident they are in those last guys, the Sky Moore. I wouldn't say Ross because he's a different type of player, but Sky Moore, Miko Hardman.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's maybe an option if he's still available. And again, guys always get nicked up. Guys like you were just mentioning always go down. And he is similar. Like Rice, his game is kind of similar to Juju's. At least what we saw his 1 year with the Chiefs was kind of like that, kind of a yak guy. He's not going to really go over the top, or he's not the fastest guy, but somewhat similar games. I remember there was a catch during the Bills when Juju was on the team, and he took it like 45 yards of the
That
house.
was crazy.
Yeah, catching a little screen pass. But who knows if he still has that type of game? I know last year was kind of banged up with the Patriots, but like you said, who knows? Because he was with the Patriots last year, so it's like he could still have some youthless in him, but also he was not in a good situation last year with the New England Patriots. I'm pretty sure he was banged up most of the year. But as we move on from receivers, we go to quote unquote another receiver, Travis Kelce and company. Even though they are tight ends, or listed at tight ends, but Travis Kelce and company. What is there any surprises? I know we have they kind of went in with four tight ends. They typically like to keep three. What is your thoughts? You got Irv Smith, you got Travis Kelce. Obviously, he's making the team. You got a Noah Gray and Jared Wiley.
Yeah, I don't expect us to switch from the philosophy of keeping three tight ends. Like we ran with Gray, Kelce, and Blake Bell for a while there since Gray was drafted. And it's always worked. We don't need to take a tight end from another position that might require more depth.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Wiley and Gray as making it over Irv Smith. Obviously, Gray, he's been decently productive. And then obviously Jared Wiley is a third round rookie, so we're not cutting him. I just see Irv Smith as like a casualty of this because I don't see us keeping four tight ends.
Yeah, I'm more a blocking tight end, bigger guy. I agree. I think they keep three tight ends. I like this tight end room. I mean, obviously, you have Travis Kelce. I mean, we don't really have to sit there and talk about him that much because he's Travis Kelce. Noah Gray, he's that guy like randomly in the playoffs when it's like a 3rd and 8, and it's like with 2 minutes left, all of a sudden he just catches a big pass. He just good old reliable. Again, he's not. There's nothing really special he's going to do. He's a pretty good blocker, but he's just that guy randomly just has like a big catch on like 3rd and 12 in a game, in like the fourth quarter. Wiley, I want to see more of him. I feel like we haven't seen a lot. So I want to see more of him, but I think we keep three. Moving on to the final position of the offense is the offensive line. Who do you see week one? They're throwing out there your 5 offensive linemen.
Okay, the fact that Caliendo was the backup for Tooney while Tooney was rehabbing during training camp and all that, Caliendo is in there. So it's the 5 starters. You have Caliendo. Wanya Morris was spotting for that starting left tackle spot, which means he's going to make it. He's going to be the backup. After that, I know we drafted 2 interior linemen later in the draft. One out of Holy Cross and then one out of Penn State, I believe. I can't remember either of their names. But Holy Cross just stood out to me like, yo, he's from Holy Cross. That's why. And then Lucas Niang, who has been on the squad since, I believe, the 2020 season. He was
out his rookie year.
Yep.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, I remember that. That would have been useful, Niang. He would have been pretty useful that year if we had him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not great, but I mean, what we trotted out there against Tampa Bay, he would have been the star of that line.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I believe is 10 guys I just named. Is that 10 guys?
Yes, 10 guys. Or 9. 9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10. Okay, 10 guys.
Okay.
And we already named 2 quarterbacks, so that's 12. And I said we're going to get to 23, okay? 2 quarterbacks. I said 3 running backs, cut Clyde. That's 5. I said 7 wide receivers, that's 12. And I said 3 tight ends, that's 15, which means we have 8 spots. Maybe we go 24 and 26 between the offense and the defense because 23 is a little too. I don't see us only trotting out 3 backup offensive linemen. So 24 spots for offense, 9 offensive linemen, and the man I have out is Holy Cross just because he has the least amount of draft capital, and I've watched so little of him.
Yeah, I have 9 as well. I'm curious, what do you think that left tackle position is going to be? Kingsley Suamataia. Yeah, he's been. I mean, he just got in a little scuffle in practice. He was throwing dudes around. He's looked really good, in preseason. I'm watching highlights of him just one arm shoving third and second stringers to the ground, and they're reconsidering the NFL after that. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got the Samoan strength. We know
Oh,
that. We
definitely.
know that. We know that Samoan strength.
We saw him jump out of that pool.
Yeah,
We saw
a couple.
that. I tried
Yeah,
that. I can't. My brother tried it. He's very athletic. He can't.
I'm light as a feather. I can't even get close. My knees start cracking. The water starts shaking. But I can't even close. He's played pretty well. Who do you think takes that? Because that they're kind of looking for that after they separated from Donovan Smith.
Kingsley, most
Yeah,
definitely. Most definitely Kingsley. He's looked good in the snaps that he's played. He looked better at training camp to the point where like their competition was very short-lived and he just started taking all the reps. I remember when training camp first started, it was so cool to see them basically doing 50-50, but that didn't last long. And so it's going to be Kingsley, and I'm very optimistic because if we drafted a top this year, he only has to be top 20, really. But if we drafted a good left tackle that we will have for 4 years on that second round contract.
are we coming closer and closer to this 0-3 offensive line where it's just everyone's a Pro Bowl? You got 5 Pro Bowlers on your team, where I mean, it's looking closer and closer. Like they're going to have this. I think the guy that should be most excited is obviously Patrick, but how about these running backs? These running backs should be very excited. I think Clyde is definitely going to hit that 1,000 yard threshold. If I mean, we already have 4 stud guys. We just need that fifth guy all of a sudden to just pan out. I mean, I would say 3. And then Juwan Taylor, we just need you to not false start. When he doesn't, he leads the league and gives his quarterback the most time to
Oh yeah,
pass.
definitely. I mean, our O line is definitely built to protect Patrick.
Yeah.
Tooney is the best in the business. Jawan
Mm-hmm.
Taylor, when he's like you said, when he's not being penalized, he's the best in the business pass protection wise. Creed Humphrey, I remember he didn't allow a sack until like his late in his second year. So
Yeah.
these guys are built for pass protection. Obviously, our run blocking has been kind of suspect. Trey Smith is very good in the run blocking department, but I'm
Yeah.
very interested to see where Kingsley lines up on that spectrum of run blocking and pass blocking. Because
Yeah.
lots of times, O linemen, when they get drafted, it kind of changes. Like what you thought they were good at in the NFL or in college football is not what they end up being best at in the NFL. And so I'm very curious to see that.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, like you said, Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, Joe Tooney, those guys right there. I mean, you have Trey Smith last year. You one hand body slams a Denver Bronco, runs over, and then just absolutely gives them a cold stunner to another Broncos player. So
Yeah.
that right there, the interior right there is absolutely phenomenal. Um, but again, we still have a game to see some of these guys play this last preseason game before we're there. That's another break, and then we're going to up against the Ravens. What do you expect to see in this last preseason game? Do you even expect to see the starters at all? I know they usually don't play that third preseason game, but what do you expect to see this third preseason game versus the Chicago Bears? No Caleb Williams
I,
though, but Chicago Bears.
I don't know. I expect to see some stuff shake out when it comes to the wide receiver room
Yep.
because, I mean, we saw Tony was getting run late in the game, very late, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for him. Just because he's running with the threes doesn't mean he doesn't have a shot. They just want to see him. They want to see all the God-given talent that he has actually convert to something. And so I'm going to be mainly what I do in the preseason usually is I watch individual players the entire play. I don't care what happens. I don't care whether it's a gain or a loss. I'm going to sit there. I'm
Right.
going to watch Kingsley. I'm going to watch Felix Anudike. I'm going to watch
Yep.
Kadarius Toney. I've been watching Felix most of the entire preseason, trying to
Yes.
see something from him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's get it. No. Yeah. That's something I was going to ask you, and you absolutely my mind is me and you waited 3 hours out
yeah,
to watch this man get drafted. It was a
yeah,
long time. I didn't think I was going to ever get my legs back. I don't think I ever have got my legs back. Tried to go to the gym yesterday, shoot some hoops. My knees are popping and locking
yeah.
because we watched him get drafted at the 32nd pick, and he played a lot, which sometimes can be a good thing because, okay, you're playing a lot the entire game, but that also can mean they want to see something from you that they haven't seen because they can go throw a guy who's going to be on the practice squad in the game to get him NFL reps. But Felix, what type of expectations do you have for him this season?
I mean, I it's really up to I don't have expectations for him because I was extremely underwhelmed last year. And I've been
Yes.
underwhelmed up to this point about basically everything I've heard about him and seen. Okay. And
Mhm.
so I don't have expectations very high just because he was a first round pick. He was a very late first round pick, and I'm not gonna automatically put all this pressure on him just because
Right.
he was that pick. But I want to see improvement. I want to
Improve.
see that I want to see him work towards, okay, we're gonna pick up your fifth year option because you're worth it at this price rather than give you a new contract. I want to see that because when you spend a first rounder on someone, you want to be able to pick up the option. That's the goal in the end.
Right.
That's why first rounders are more coveted than high second rounders because of
Yeah.
the extra year of control. And so I want to see him get some more run. I just want to see him, show some flashes at least in year two.
Yeah. Year two, you got to see something. Obviously, not everyone's gonna, go from be George Kalafdis 8 sacks and 10 sacks in your first, 2 seasons or whatever it may be. I think back-to-back years, 10 sacks. Not everyone's gonna have that type of just growth right away. But I do want to see something from him because even if he can just give it a little something, then you have a glimpse of like you got Chris Jones, you got Felix, and you got Mike Dana. You got guys on your offensive line, young, plus guys that are in their upper 20s, 30s with Chris Jones now. So that would be huge. And again, losing a guy like Snead in your back end, if your defensive line is getting to the quarterback, it don't matter who's back there. If quarterbacks are throwing off their back foot or quarterbacks are getting hurried trying to force the ball into tight windows, you're going to create turnovers. And I think that's the biggest thing too for me with the Chiefs is getting turnovers this year. And I kind of want to see that this game. I know it's probably going to be whoever at quarterback. I know Caleb Williams. They said he's not going to play, which I was really hoping to see because he's trying to do his best Patrick Mahomes impersonations. So I was excited to see that. Um, so no Caleb Williams. We mentioned some guys we want to see. What is your scoring prediction as we wrap up the show here? What is your scoring prediction this final preseason game for the Big Ten?
1916 Kansas City.
1916 Kansas City. Maybe a little Harrison Butker game-winning field goal. That'd be maybe Justin Reed. F it. Let's put that prediction out there. Justin Reed making a game-winning field goal. I got the Chiefs winning 26 to 13. I think the Chiefs really get to the Bears just because, again, you're not really dealing with Caleb Williams or anyone with any type of caliber at quarterback. And Oladukin and Wentz are going to be a lot better than whatever backups they have. And I'm excited to see some players out there. Let us know in the comment sections below, guys, who you're excited to see, who any surprise cuts you guys think coming up in these next couple days. Zach, any last words as we are very close to September 5th?
No, no last words. I just want to fast forward 2 weeks. Like, I just want to get this over with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Excited, guys. It's right around the corner. We'll be back next week. No Friday episode because obviously this is being brought to you on a Thursday. So we will see you guys next week on the TBT podcast.